It's a great honor to chair this session, which is seems to be a bit non-traditional anthropological topic. Letters on love and critique of Colombo's students' love and life. Personally, I disclose that I'm not entirely familiar with the academic. Neither I have had any kind of personal experience or engaged with that kind of discourse. So this is what. So it is an opportunity to listen to someone who actually did reach ethnographically that kind of research. And it's also good to listen to some of our student folks here from SAU to engage with their own life experience of love and life and reflect some of their own understanding about the discourse. So this is what we have today. But as a chair, I have privilege to say some few comments on the topic as sort of opening remarks. First of all, the reason I say it is non-traditional anthropological topic because it is interesting to see the shift from our anthropological gaze from familiar object, for which ethnographers have long been seized by their sort of lovesick of traditionality. Increasingly, we have come to realize the necessity of methodological innovations, as well as the innovation in the objective studies. With this realization, there have been significant progresses towards novel avenues in ethnographic studies. I suppose today's presentation is resonant of these innovations in anthropological studies. Today, we are not discussing about the tribe, neither kinship network, not the primitive societies, or Mosaic exchange of gifts. Today, we are discussing about the notion of love. Yes, the thematic hobby horse of the poets and Sufi saints. It is fascinating to bring these issues in the framework of anthropological studies. With this sense of excitement, today we welcome this young anthropologist who is originally from Sri Lanka, the land of love and the political vibrance, but has acquired higher education from the world that once claimed to be model of homo equilis in the sense of the wisdom of. Dr. Mihirinl Sirisena did her PhD in social anthropology from University of Edinburgh, and currently she is a postdoctoral fellow at the National University of Ireland. The presentation that is given today is in fact the continuation of her PhD research. The presentation attempts to illustrate the course through which romantic relationship gain meaning in the lives of students at the University of Colombo. Drawing her research that conducted with some students at the university during 2007 and 2008, her paper argues that romantic relationship consists of a process of investment. Describing investment in relationship as a way of embedding one's sense of self. Our presentation will highlight the relational aspect of self, as well as pointing out the notions of one's life activities. Mihirinl will be using letters of life as a tool to elucidate the phenomenon of youthful love. Our paper describes that although love and letters may arise out of youthful need, romantic relationships are all but a passing phrase. While providing a space in which one could fulfill their youthful desire, romantic relationship became a part of the larger plan of way of life by paving the way for the part of real life. Real love seems to provide here a formidable base for material bonds. The stories of our research participants about their love and lives is a kind of lived experience through which he suggests real loves as born when relationships are invested in, pouring in time, effort, trust, and commitment. It is the investment of trust and commitment that makes these bonds last, thus making it a kind of bond on which a successful marriage could be founded. Investing in building trust and commitment is linked to the investment in oneself in the relationship, because in doing so, the research participants pointed out they emerge as men and women in particular nature. Illustrating this process, Mihirinl highlights, of course, through experience of love and lives of the students interviewed, that wanting relationships are embedded within particular discourse about the heteronormative conjugal. Let's welcome Dr. Mihirinl today here to present the talk of 45 minutes, and then Professor Pathak will be discussing today on that topic. So then we have a kind of very close interactive sessions afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Is it on?
To present my work here. I'm a student of work in progress, and this is the first time I'm presenting in this part of the world, and that makes me very, very nervous. So be gentle when you comments I'm going to read out loud, and if I go too fast, please stop me and ask me to listen. So that I speak quite fast and nervous. Dear Anish, you probably noticed that things haven't been right for us lately. I couldn't bring myself to talk about it because I couldn't figure out what was getting in the way for us until quite recently when it came up. I was chatting with Farid the other day. You know, the one who broke up with her boyfriend Lanta a couple of months back? She was talking about Lanta Day. She told me, despite all the pain and fighting, it still hurts when she thinks about their relationship. And she was talking about her dreams. How she and Lanta were to live in a two-story house with their 2 children and the car at Narsimhan. When she was talking about her dreams and future life, that I knew what she meant. I understood where her pain came from, and I understood where my unhappiness about us came from. I want a love like that. I want my life to be like in the Narsimhan. I want to be part of a circle of life like that. I want to be part of a world where a happy man and a woman come home with their baby wrapped in a blue cloth, and then the baby grows up and to be a little boy who goes to school in blue shorts and a crisp white shirt. The son grows up and graduates, gets married, and then brings home his own baby. A perfect life where you have someone with you to witness all of life's ups and downs. That's what I want. Bindu and I, when we get into relationships, it's that kind of life that we dream and want to have. For us, love opens the way to this kind of happy life. In love, we commit, we trust. We make an effort to understand and appreciate our boyfriends. We give and we get back. With all these exchanges, we become secure in our relationships. It's kind of nurturing. It's kind of a nurturing relationship, and that's why we think that romantic relationships lay out the best foundation for marriage. Times have changed. Now we want different things from marriage. It's not just us women who say so. I heard a few times Arvind and his brother preach their friends about wanting stability, security, comfort, and a whole lot of other things that lead to a good life from marriage. Marriage is not just a man and a woman getting together to produce children. All those things that we expect marriage to bring into our lives, it's like it paves the way for a certain kind of living. It's like with Bordeaux, who live women and men. We too look for a companionate marriage. Companionate marriage was not just a man and a woman getting together, it's a way of life. People who enter into these kind of marriages are certain kinds of people. They speak in a particular way about particular concerns, particular goals in particular ways, and live in certain kinds of houses. Bindu, myself, and so many other union students, and this is the kind of thing we want. We dream of a future of stability and security. House, a car, and 2 children. We all agree that this is the kind of life that's worth living. You know why it's important? Though we speak of life and though we live on the assumption that life has its own positive value, I think it's the relationship that we get involved in that gives us gives that life that value. I think the value of our life is reckoned in relation to our position, defined against and against the relationship we get involved in through different roles and we perform as sons or daughters, mothers or fathers, friends or teachers, etc. I think whatever we do in life, through what we do, we try to discover and fulfill the expectations that we're expected to fulfill in different roles. As the roles, the relationship that facilitate these roles, and the manner in which we deliver the expected performances are what determine the value of our lives. It's like, if there's a purpose in life, it's to find where we fit into our roles and perform whatever that's expected of the roles. I think it's this idea of purposeful living we try to get at when we talk about the point and the meaning of doing things. Point of the meaning we talk about, and that's about discovering the expectations of roles we're expected to play and working towards their fulfillment. In fulfilling these expectations, I think we tell ourselves and those around us of our worth. We talk about the point in doing things all the time, be it studying, giving a gift, or getting into a relationship. Everything has to have a point, a meaning. I think we all agree with Nishan when she said, in Pranam Wali Deva Kalarakne, there's no point in doing things or say or doing it. You know, man almost drove me crazy the other day when we went to buy the boyfriend a birthday gift. We would have walked into about 10 shops looking for a suitable gift, and then finally when I snapped, she told me there's no point in giving a gift for the sake of giving. It's like whatever we do, we think of a point. You know, when we talk about the point in doing things, that's when we think about the meaning and the implications of our acts. Thinking about the meaning and the implications, we try to see how our acts fit in with our expectations and the expectations of the acts. Roles, expectations, and performances, yes, they apply to all sorts of relationships that we get involved in our lifetime with parents, friends, and relatives. All relationships are important to us when we try to live a good life. Different relationships become more important than others at different points in life. For us, for where we are now, young men and women of marriageable age, I think this is when romantic relationships become very interesting. At this stage in life, a romantic relationship is leveraged to the next level. We all know that after uni, we have to think about marriage and settling down. We all know that the best way to find someone is to get married to someone. Find someone to get married to is through a romantic relationship. We know that it's only with someone you love, someone who understands you and can communicate with you, that we could have a good marriage. To make our romantic relationships into those that can support a good marriage, we have to put ourselves into the relationship. This is what we do, Anish. We invest ourselves in the relationship. That's hard work and take a lot of pain and pleasure. But the pain and the pleasure brings us our lives, our story. You know, I think our lives are stories made out of relationships. We grasp our lives as stories. We process and come to terms with our experiences by telling stories about our lives, and our lives themselves are stories with multiple plots, chorus, layers, and their own magic. They're messy, moving in different directions at different times. But what holds it together is our expectations of and for a future. The past, present, and the future don't always add up to the same thing in stories we tell of our lives. They don't, because, like Peter says of Germany's history, the stories are built layer upon layer, not as distinctive and neatly piled up, but porous with color that runs in different directions. And like that Hindu-style gate guarding the old mosque in that village in Java, the different layers of our lives manifest themselves in the least expected. That's not to say that our lives are scattered all over and that we lack sense of continuity. I think continuity comes through relationship that we have in our lives, to things and to people. All our stories are about relating to one thing or the other, something or someone, in all relationships. And in all relationships, we find bits of ourselves. In all kinds of relationships that we are involved in, we find our story. In a rather adult way, we write our life stories every day, going back and forth in time and highlighting, undermining, ignoring, or forgetting some relationships over the others. Relationships themselves are like our lives. They too are fluid and are influenced. They too are porous, with one influencing the other. But this is not what we want from relationships, especially not romantic relationships on which we want to build our futures. So what we do is we try to bring in some sense of stability and continuity into our relationships by turning the feelings we feel into a way through which we could live. It's like, I'm not just going to say for a second daughter, I'm also an anxious girlfriend because I feel towards you what a girlfriend would feel towards a boyfriend. You know, I was upset with Lily when she told me that romantic relationships are investments. But I understand what she meant by it. We invest in our romantic relationships, pouring in time, effort, and our sense itself. We do this with the understanding that those who are in relationships with us are doing the same. But that on its own is not enough. As with all relationships, these relationships are too material for our stories. And like with all other events of our lives, when we tell stories about romantic relationships, we reflect and make sense of our experience. And by talking about them and discussing them, we make the world privy to our stories, and the stories become real. It's as if it is also in the telling that relationships are formed and established. When we tell stories about our lives, love lives, describe who we relate to and how we relate to them. In telling, we look for recognition of the relationships, our relationship, as well as the recognition of the person that we become in the relationship. If we talk about our relationship with others, I become known as Anisha's girlfriend. Then I'm seen as your type of woman because I'm modern and ambitious. And they say I'm in a relationship with a man who wants to become famous, so loyal. And they say that we're a matching couple because we're progressive and forward-looking. And more than talking, we come to be recognized as modern, progressive, ambitious men. Of course, like relationships, life itself, our identities and all the other stories are not coherent and consistent through time and place. Stories we tell are all but one representation of a time, and this representation shapeshifts with the audience, time, and experience. This is not to say that everything was patchy and that we hop from one time to another with different stories. We are a collection of all of it, even things that happened before we were born, like BT's layers. Different temporal episodes of lives are piled up on one another, seeding, corrupting, and coloring. Look at us, for example. We are very much a product of the times that have gone before our times and the times we live in, as well as the times we live in. Both are the post-independent state, the conflict, the insurgencies, and the open economic policies. They not only shaped what we could strive for, they shaped the expectations and told us what we could dream of. Now we come to the university and the city chasing the dreams we built on the backs of these currents of a past and present. We think we decrease a bridge to a better life. We dream of getting a well-paid job and living a modern life after university. And of course, we dream of finding the one that we could share that life with. The thing about coming to the city, at least one of the things, is that when we come to the city, we find ourselves alone. And also at this stage, there's that pressure that we need to find something that's good. Most people say that we get into relationships at the university because they're lonely and that we don't have anyone to supervise us, and that we have a lot of freedom and that we get up to all sorts of things. And that at the university, romantic relationships are nothing but a chance to fulfill our desires. But they forget that that's not all what a relationship is. I think a good relationship is a cocoon that lets us be what we want to be and appreciates us for what we are. I think a good relationship helps us find someone for life, someone who will appreciate us and help us become the best that we can be. A good partner will take care of us, appreciate our good qualities, correct us if we do something good, and with all that, help us become the person that we could be and want to be. That kind of relationship helps us find a life partner. You know, when they tell you that they love you both things, so you're being honest, that you're kind, that you're pretty, and you're ambitious, but quick temper. It's like with all those compliments and complaints, they tell us that it's okay to be the persons that we are. They accept us, the good and the bad. You know, we speak of compatibility in relationships. I think what we look for when we think of compatibility is finding that piece that fits, that piece that would accept and complement the piece that we are. To see if we are compatible, I need to know who I am and who you are. And if that person who you are is compatible with the person that I am. If our personalities, social backgrounds and all that, these things complement each other. If we are compatible with each other, then we could truly appreciate each other for who we are. In compatible relationships, we can be ourselves. When we're compatible, you understand each other. Then you accept each other and help each other get to where you want to in life. Because we understand each other. We trust each other and we know what we want in life. It is this sort of an involved person that we look for and wish to be married to one day. When we tie up love and involvement with our needs, hopes, expectations and future, then we want to make it last. That's where marriage comes in. We sift through potentials and then we find someone we could see eye to eye with. Then we build that relationship and make it the one that leads to marriage. We all know that none of loves last. That real love, the real loves that last are the ones that lead to marriage. Real love needs growth. It's with time and effort that we can build trust and commitment in a relationship. And these are the foundations for real love. That's why real love is also an investment. Investments take time and they take effort. It's about forming habits and continuing with them until they become a part of our lives. Everything we do in a relationship is towards forming habit and bringing continuity and stability. Of course, we know that nothing lasts. But while we accept it, we try desperately to find an antidote to instability and uncertainty of life. Because the better part, what we do is to try to find a relationship that we can both stay. We all do this. We try to show love and establish that we love in different ways. You and I have often laughed at our friends at the university running like mad hatters on Valentine's Day or on their birthdays to get meaningful gifts. We laughed at them saying that their homes are consumers. We didn't see that it wasn't just about buying expensive things. There was a message behind the gift. Giving a gift was one of the ways in which we show love, show we understand and establish love. I often spend hours when I go looking for gifts for you. Gift is not just a gift. It's not just a gift of a piece of me. When I give you something, even something very small, what I'm doing is entrenching our lives in one another. You know, I realize when I give you a gift, it's not that I let you know the significant position you have in my life. I'm also telling you how I see you. We're often doing things as means, right? So when I get you something, I try to get something that harmonizes with your qualities, your talent, and the person that you are. It isn't in there. But you do with what I give. What I do with what I give you tells me how you see us and the relationship. Then you respect it, use it, or abuse it to tell me what you learn about what you think of me and us. I think this kind of thing lays the first brick for a foundation of understanding. Understanding in itself is not enough to make a relationship work. To show commitment, build trust, and understanding, I need to show you that I want to be with you. Being with at one level is about being available. It involves getting deeper into the relationship by sharing, which reinforces understanding and helps us build commitment and trust. We both know that these are the pillars on which a good relationship is founded. And this is what we try to do with whatever resources that are available to us. All those missed calls, SMSs, good night calls, lunchtime calls, all those are one classic example of making an effort to be with each other. We know we can't be with each other every minute of our lives, but we try to overcome it by letting the other person know that we are with them every minute of our lives because they are in our thoughts. When we try to bridge the distance that keeps us apart during the day like this, we also get entangled in cycles of caring. We begin to think that knowing where you are at the time of the day is also caring for you. If I care for you, I should know what you're doing and where you are. Also, the calls and the texts we get from our girlfriends or boyfriends show significant place they had in our lives, and they could reach out to us whenever they want. And the special calls and the texts we get, it kind of shows everyone else who's around that we have this significant person in our lives. So when the calls and the texts are very much, even when the calls and the texts are very much a private thing, they kind of establish us as a couple in the public eye. Above all, these calls and these messages are not also about trust. The fact that I know where you are and what you do when you're not with me helps me trust you, and that's important for our relationship to make it last. Trust is definitely one of the most important things in a relationship. At times I feel that whatever we do in a relationship is to build trust. We start with attraction and work on it. Sorry, to make it something more. And we can't turn into something more unless we trust each other. And trust is not just about trusting. It's not that we begin by trusting, we build trust. We start with a point of lack of trust, and then we build and we build. We look for a lot of different things in trust. In trusting, I may want you to make or help make me decisions about life, careers, education, friends. I trust you to make decisions for me because I believe that you know me and you understand. This trust is like a form of knowing. Since to be able to make a decision on my behalf, you have to be aware of my needs, my personality, and my skills. That's just one side. At another level, I think trust is a bond. In trusting, we expose ourselves mutually. To trust each other, we both have to be open to each other. We need to reciprocate trust with trust. The fact that it's mutual is what makes it work. It's like a safety net. It's what lets us know that we won't be betrayed. Knowing that we won't be betrayed, we trust more. It lightens the weight of worry or uncertainty because we are kind of bound to each other by trust. Trusting like this in a way shows us that our judgment of trust was right in the first place, because he is only a person who is compatible with my expectations and who shares the views of a shared future that I could trust in this way. It's only that kind of person who would understand me and with whom I could communicate at that level, who would trust me like that. That's why I think trust is the most important thing for a relationship. It's with trust that we can find our Madhulika or someone of my own. That's what we will look for in a relationship. I think with trust, we build a formidable foundation for a stable relationship. A relationship that brings our own Madhulika. We need that trust, that security, because if we don't have it, I don't think we can take our relationship to the next level. If you can't trust the person you're with, I don't think it's possible to share our bodies. Well, you could if you want to, but then you have to have consequences and their life. Lonely and alone in the city, often for the first time in our lives, of course we look for intimacy in our romantic relationships. We all have needs and desires. After all, this is what makes romantic relationships significantly different from all other relationships. Sex, pleasure, desire, and attraction are big players in romantic relationships. But this is a scary side because how we go about fulfilling these needs have to be thought about very carefully. If not, especially women, could end up in compromised situations for the rest of our lives. We grow up in a culture that has a lot to say about how and what we do with our bodies. The way we talk or don't talk about our bodies and fulfill multiple needs and desires and pleasure. All these things are quite strictly regulated at times. And if we were to cross the boundaries, we get into seriously compromised positions. That's why it's important to make sure that bodily needs are satisfied in the correct emotional and cultural settings. Yes, we may claim that intimacy is a personal thing and we should be able to do as we please with our bodies. But if we step back to see how we work deliberately around nodes around sex, we know that things are not as critical or simple. We try to fulfill our desires for within limits. We try to not go too far, especially as women. We try to make sure that we don't give up our virginity, but if we do, the price we have to pay for transgressing the rules are high. Of course, any form of sexual act is a compromise to different degrees, and the threat of compromise could have life-altering consequences for us. That's why it's very important to know that you could trust the person you're with before you go into that stage of sharing bodies. True, trusting is service. Every active relationship is, and at each stage, the risks you have to take become greater and greater, but it's worth it because the dividends are greater too. These risks take us closer and closer to having the Magdalena that we own. So all the tests and the risks are worth it if it brings us that Magdalena. You remember we were quite shocked when we heard that Amali overdosed in Panrols when she found out that Iran had married another woman. Yes, it's a very sad situation, but we couldn't understand why she or anyone else would entertain the idea of suicide, let alone condone or tempt it. We all think that life is valuable, so why throw it away? Well, here's the thing. Though life has its unquestioned value, the value of that life is determined in relation to the relationships that life is involved in and defined with and against. So if the life through the relationship through which that life was defined, then it's like that life is represented. It's an empty life. Though we don't condone it, we would understand it if someone was to throw that life away. We could empathize with the overwhelming emptiness one would feel. One would live in a vacuum with no relationships. We all think that a life without relationship is like an empty vessel, and such a life is not one that's worth living. If one were to throw such an empty life away, it makes sense. We didn't criticize the communist neighbor who took her own life after the 2004 tsunami had drowned her entire family. Kamin said that auntie rolled around like a ghost for about a month before she hung herself. I wouldn't have survived that long if all the people that I loved died like that. Kamini was right when she said her neighbor auntie was like a ghost. It is people who bring meaning to life. A life in which loved ones are absent is not a life that's worth living. So my point in telling you about all these empty lives is that when we look for a Maggie mechanic, this is what we have to bring. Someone we could trust, understand, and could share the rest of our life with. Someone who could fill our lives, and someone who could be that mirror to look into, to see ourselves for the rest of our lives. We both agree that it is in relationship with others that we become and be the persons that we are. We are relationships because it is in relationships that we become the people we are. When Amal was trying to come to terms with the breakup of her relationship to Erantha, she told me that nothing meant anything to her at the time. All the time she said things like everything's alive, everything's meaningless, and that she feels empty. She talked about how she had lost the will to live and how she keeps losing weight. I think with that, just as she was mourning the end of her relationship, she was also mourning the loss of a person that she wasn't in that relationship. That's why she felt empty and meaningless. She had become a certain kind of a person in her 4-year-long relationship with her uncle, and her life acquired a certain meaning in relation to the relationship she had with her uncle. And when these were taken away, she feels empty and meaningless. Both Amal and Kamini's neighbor auntie reminded me of what Butler says, that when we lose the relationship, we lose it with ourselves with her. Along with the relationship, the self that we were in relationship dies. The absence of the relationship through which we become persons of certain behaviors strips our sense of self and turns us into ghosts. You know, all these examples, just as they show us that we're relational beings, they also show us how fragile our relational selves are. Our sense of self, just as our relationships and life itself, is plagued with uncertainty. We live at this war with bombs exploding at random places at random times. who knows when and how we will meet our death. It's not just the war alone. You know, we all know that life itself is full of uncertainties. Everything is uncertain and nothing lasts forever. As Buddhism tells us, change is the only constant. We all know this is true. But that doesn't stop us from looking for certainty, security and stability. We look for permanent jobs, we want to buy houses, not rent them. All this and that is stability. What we do with all these things is to build towards a future. It does. Building towards the future gives a sense of direction, and that direction indicates a stability or certainty in life. It's like, if we have a sense of where we are going, we may know what our tomorrow might look like. So we have packed with tomorrow, behaving as if we know certain that it is going to come the way we expect it to. And this pact with tomorrow, it's an antidote to uncertainty. It's like Stevenson says, to plan for a tomorrow and to make a promise for that tomorrow, one has to reach towards that tomorrow and commit to it. In other words, plan for tomorrow is to say that there will be tomorrow. I think when we say that there will be tomorrow and plan for it, we try to extend ourselves beyond the now we live in. We lay out a present scenario, and this imagined scenario injects a sense of certainty and continuity into our lives. What I'm trying to say in short is that I think commitment is an antidote to uncertainty. When we commit ourselves to something, we move away from ambiguity, vagueness, and owing stability. Our lives are struck with. By committing myself, not only do I tell myself that there will be tomorrow, I also have a sense of what I would be doing that tomorrow and I'm aware of the consequences that dream has on the path my life takes. This is what we do when we commit. Committing says that there will be tomorrow and plan for that tomorrow. This is where marriage steps into. Marriage is a commitment. When we bring marriage into the equation, it's like we get a telescope to look towards the future and bring our life with love-like sense of predictability. The predictability future orientation brings into our lives provides us some planning, gives us a sense of security with which we will counter a sense of uncertainty of relationships and lives. In the grand scheme of things, we need this kind of commitment because it's a big part of what we see as a fuller life or a Sarthak. We know that Sarthak implies a life with direction and stability. Actually, I think stability defines the Sarthak. In Sarthak, not only do we have a good sense of direction, you're reaching your full potential as well. When we think we could build towards such a life by taking stock of our position, achievements and expectations, and then, basing on those things, plan for the future. It's like this. We see life going forward in stages. There's childhood, adolescence, youth, adulthood, and then old age. Life unfolds in clusters, and these clusters look a lot like puzzles, periods that last until. In periods that last until, natural time is suspended, and periods are defined by experiences. These experiences, they might not contrast with natural chronology or natural time, follow their own sequence. Our lives are like that, broken into stages, and each stage has its own rhythm, roughly relating to age. Life glides through stages. Like we see in someone, life flows from childhood to school years, to university, to marriage, to bearing and rearing children, and work, to ending old age. I think expectations form the current that brings rhythm into our lives. Out of each stage of life, there are expectations. There are expectations we have to meet, and our expectations that are met. We move from one stage to the next by fulfilling or trying to fulfill these expectations. And there is expectation that we have to move from one stage to the next if we have to live a full life. like Dhamma was saying the other day, there is an expectation that we should be in a stable relationship by the second or the third year of university. We should finish the degree, find a good job, get married, and then the next stage in life starts. That's a fuller life. And it's like a fuller life is a rhythmic life. You can see that I've been thinking a lot lately. And thinking about all these things, I couldn't help but wonder where our relationship was going. I loved all the attention and the praise he gave me, and loved that we're so alike, and that we could talk about a lot of things, and that we seem to know and understand each other. But despite that, and I can't help but worry about why you wouldn't want to go public with our relationship. At first, hiding our relationship from friends and doing things like secretly holding hands was exciting. It's okay to do that for a while. But after about 6 months, I feel like I had enough of secrecy. It's like our relationship lives only in SMSs and midnight calls. Actually, when you think of it like that, our relationship is not going anywhere, is it? I know you have great plans for life. I know you're serious about studying politics, and I feel our relationship would be a burden to your politics. I know you want to run for union presidents next year. And what I realized when I was talking to my sister was that you might not want to go public with the relationship, because if you did, you might miss out on an opportunity to be popular among the junior girls in the university. We all know that being single and available increases your appeal to new female students. I feel we are pushing our relationship to the background because of this. But this is the thing. Maybe you don't realize it. In this relationship of SMSs and phone calls, what I don't get is the recognition that I am your girlfriend. I don't get the recognition that I'm someone important in your life. I can't even let our friends know that I'm someone important in your life and that I have a special place in your life. Why is it important that people know? Well, it's as if I can't talk about it, it's as good as it doesn't exist. Like I told you before, we come to accept, process, and understand our life by talking about it. Going public is acknowledging our relationship as a relationship, and we both know that when we publicly acknowledge our relationship, we declare our commitment, and that strengthens the commitment. I feel that you don't want to go public because you don't want to commit to this relationship, and it brings continuity. So if there is no commitment in a relationship, there's no hope for continuity. This is a thing I don't see a future for our relationship. I'm actually writing to tell you that I'm going to end our relationship. If you can't give it the basic recognition on which we will build our relationship, I don't see the point in carrying on. I want a relationship in which I can be secure, because I know that I can be secure because I know that the man who loves me and wants me, because I know that the man I love loves me and wants me, and that he values the relationship in the same way I do, so much so that he wouldn't dream of hiding me or the relationship from her. I thought we were a good match, but that in itself is not good enough. I don't think we want the same things from this relationship. I want to perpetuate the pain. I don't want to perpetuate the pain of continuing, knowing that I want to get what I need. Good luck, which I love you still. I'll end with a postscript, which kind of describes why I wanted to present my PhD finding the way I just did. This is an experimental piece of writing. This letter is a collage of bits and pieces from my field, reflected through a main story told in the voice of its protagonist. Spanning 11 months spread between 2007 and 2008, I conducted fieldwork for my PhD thesis among university students in Colombo, Sri Lanka. I met with young men and women pursuing undergraduate studies in different disciplines and spoke with them about their romantic relationships. When putting together the story, I took creative license to intertwine stories that I heard during fieldwork with one another, while attempting to keep the voices of the interlocutors active and alive. Though it is told in the privileged voice of one interlocutor, it subsumes many voices. It's a a combination of all those stories I've heard during the field work and my interpreter of this story. During my field work, I met with women and men who came from northeastern, central, western, and southern provinces of Sri Lanka and inhabited different socio-economic contexts. Some told me that their parents were wealthy, some said they were well off, and some others said that they lived in abject poverty. 6 of my participants, 4 women and 2 men, still lived with their parents, and others lived in university hospitals or with relatives in the city or shared rooms with friends. All of them were in their early to mid-20s. The youngest was 21 and the oldest was 25. Despite the differences, my informants were connected to each other through shared dreams and expectations. They saw themselves as people in transition, moving toward the better life with the help of their university education. They were also themselves as modern men and women, ones that who have not turned their back on tradition. They acknowledged that past influenced the way in which they imagined themselves at present as well as how they envisioned their futures. And this past was multi-pronged. At one level, the past represented their roots, the religious they came from, which they couldn't turn their backs on. At another level, the country's past, politics and policies influenced what my research participants could not aspire to. In their current perceptions, they presented themselves as connected people. They said they were exposed to global currents and most importantly to ideologies which classified them as modern. The impact of countries' past limitations and need to keep up with conventions and the modern ideologies swayed the way they envisioned their heterosexual relationships and futures. Being traditional yet modern significantly influenced what they wished for their lives and kinds of relationships they involved themselves in. Their engagement with time rendered them as globals, being both global and local at the same time. To speak of their romantic relationships specifically being global themes, they drew from what they saw as global practices of love. They celebrated St. Valentine's words and phrases such as I love you, sex, kiss, and sentimental and romantic, which they used in English, hinted that they were engaging in practices that were not local. At the same time, they were deeply local for how they conducted themselves in certain regards, especially in relation to bodily intimacy, and their hopes and dreams of futures were entrenched in local expectations. Their relationship highlighted the tension and showed how romantic relationships were negotiated through modern and conventional needs and dreams and expectations. Moreover, as the letter hints, the romantic relationship meant interlocutors wanted were in tracts of middle class lives. Romantic love appears in these lives alongside sort of middle class ambitions: a car, 2-story house, and two children to be specific, career stability, which seems to have been gleaned from and supported by advertisements. In such a context, as almost all my research participants go into gleaned, a relationship is a means to meet that lead to an end, which is marriage. In their life, it is this very attribute that makes romantic relationship quality, the path that leads to a life that's worth living. Speaking of the two people, I met Anish and Hiranti on separate occasions during my field work, and they were the only couple I spoke with during the research. They were both 21 years old when I met them. Anish came from south of Colombo and was the youngest of a family of 4. Hiranti was born and bred in Colombo and had one sister. Anish voiced his doubts about the relationship when I met him. He considered himself to be a bit of a player and was not sure if he had it in himself to make it work, to make the relationship last. Hiranti, on the other hand, had serious hopes for the first romantic relationship. But she later found out that he didn't want to go public, and she described her certain relationship as one that lived on the home. And she ended the relationship because, because she felt it wasn't going anywhere. Thank you.
Thank you. That's four wonderful and descriptive reflections of love and life in the student's life. Maybe your own experience about how you engage with this discussion. For me, I was expecting more on the emotional aspect of love, which is love is not the emotional aspect of life. It's about continuity, consumerism, kind of calculative risk, and it's also about the effort-making kind of enterprise. So all these things come under the very discourse of trust and mutuality and all. So I would now invite Dr. Pathak to reflect his own experience as well as his thoughts, reflection on love and life.
Not my own experience too much. Thank you, Mihirinl. It was sweet, to put it very simply. It was very, very sweet. And very nice to also learn that there are multiple perceptions from your kind of research at WS. We look at our students and we look at our own student life and we think how much disillusioned we became, or also some sort of cynicism toward this whole idea of youthful intimacy. But coming from this, your narrative, there are a lot of, so many levels of promises, not only in terms of the narrative or the voices of the respondents, those youthful lovers, but also promises in terms of building it up like an alternative theoretical approach. I feel a lot of promises, possibilities of developing some kind of alternative theory out of it. Why do I say alternative theory? Because I was reminded of this comment, I mean, very hasty kind of conclusion Ivan's Pritchard made while talking about the Nuer and their romance, and he made this very strange kind of comment that primitive society, unlike the Western liberal society, which is based on some sort of urge for equality, or where you have at least in terms of our perception, equality of people's aspiration, men, women, and all, individuals' aspiration. Unlike this, in primitive society, you would say that there is no possibility of romantic intimacy. Why? Because they are all geared toward marriages. All of them are interested in getting married eventually and producing children, and they are tied down by their stereotypical roles, and therefore they will not be romance in typical sense. For him, for Ivan's Pritchard in that book, if you read, romance is possible only in the locations which he is familiar with, which is somewhere in some land where individuals are allowed to go around. For him, romance is typically manifest in some of those park, like we have a park outside. So some of those kind of parks. Romance is not possible in villages. Romance is not possible at all amongst the Nuer. I was just wondering, how do you respond to that kind of comment? Why do I say this? Because what is coming across from the narrative is that there is a tendency to be traditional and yet modern, and there is this constant negotiation amongst youth, college-going, university-going youth, and therefore we find that all our social networking websites they give this option of whether you're traditional or modern or liberal or something, and most of our youth would tend to say, especially girls I have noticed, would say traditional, right? And then they would have boyfriend. So there is this kind of which is fine. I mean, this is just a random observation I'm sharing with you. Even in my own university life, because you said you encouraged me to share experience, so in our university life, we have experienced.
You said traditional means?
They would say, I mean, we claim to have, especially girls, and I'm also trying to draw your attention to the gender divide or gender line, some sort of thing. So girls would tend to say that, no, we are traditional, so if you want to fall in love with me, no problem, you can. But, have in your mind that eventually you have to marry me, right? So I would not like to lose my virginity and just walk away. I would like if I'm ready for everything, but you have to get married, right? So this, on that point especially, I was trying to draw your attention to this kind of classical understanding in anthropology, number one. Number two, also if you remember, Margaret Mead and her engagement with someone's sexuality, and she would study someone's sexuality, and right in the introduction part she would write as to how she is seeking for an alternative model of adolescent behavior, right, which she does not see in America. Right? So in American society, she will find that all the adolescents are reading under strong regulation, parental regulation, and she would see that all these girls and someone girls, they are so free. I mean, they can go around hanging out, doing all kind of stuff, and there is not much of fear. Whereas all of us in urban American society have this fear that, oh, my girl would lose her virginity and she'll be nowhere, she'll be condemned for all life. Right? So she's trying to develop that. Now again, I mean, would you like to reflect upon, and I'm sure from your vantage point, from the vantage point emerging from your narrative, I see the possibility of critically engaging with some of these ideas emerging from classical anthropology, number one. Number two, I was just thinking, yes, you have referred to the idea of trust, betrayal, and also some sort of idealistic notion all of us have had. Going back to experience point, all of us have had this kind of idealistic notion, and we were also called at some point of time very naive, very juvenile. Anybody who believed in this idea that you have to trust each other and you have to expose each other, you have to keep calling each other. If we had that kind of girlfriend or boyfriend who always asked, where are you, what are you doing right now, who are you hanging out with? So we always feel, this is very nagging kind of lady, I mean she's some kind of nymphomaniac or some sort of. We used all those things and we considered it very naive behavior, right? Not very progressive, not very very advanced kind of lovers. So I was just thinking, in that light, I was just thinking, your narrative offers a very strong encouragement for that kind of idealistic notion, dispelling that fear of being naive and being emotional, sentimental, dispelling that fear of being somebody who does not understand the reality in intimacy, intimate relationship. That is fine. But on the other hand, we are also familiar with a very bizarre, I would say bizarre, this is my value judgment, it's a very bizarre theoretical judgment made by somebody like Anthony Giddens, right? So he would discuss this transformation of intimacy in advanced capitalist society, and he would say that, what happens if there is so much of risk, the risk profile, he would highlight the risk profile, and then he would say that, okay fine, in this light of risk profile, you understand that there is a risk profile involved in every individual biography and in every individual's case of love. Mere trust would not help. So what is the answer? Answer is agency, right? Some sort of agency would be interfering. In other words, you would like to have a virtual system of surveillance, right? So Anthony Giddens' answer is virtual system of surveillance to tackle with uncertainty in intimate relationship of intimacy, right? So if uncertainty is there, Giddens is basically responding to all this critique emerging from postmodern thinkers. So he says that to answer that uncertainty raised by postmodern thinkers, we can say that in this situation, intimacy is possible, love relationship is possible, there is risk profile, unalloyed trust is impossible. However, you can manage with your relationship if you are looking at the system of surveillance. So you would, if you are a girlfriend, you would like to see where your boyfriend is by looking at his Facebook profile, say for example. Rather than asking you, where were you, you look at the Facebook profile, oh, you were here, and you were with this girl, and you were hanging out here. So, that is how you would make your judgment, right? And that is how you would individually decide whether you want to continue with the gentleman or not. Fine? So, in that light, again, comes the point, how would you evaluate your conclusions? Very nice, I mean, it's very inspiring, but some of these questions would always arise as to how, also, if it is like negotiation between tradition and modernity, how youth would respond to the question of, the practice of endogamy which might be prevalent in their own social group where they come from, I mean, which may be part of their ascribed identity, how do they overcome that kind of, binding force of endogamous practices? Number one. Number two, in university life, we have also noticed a lot of inclination, quite a good deal of inclination towards same-sex love, right? So, how do you, I mean, in terms of heteronormativity and some kind of homophobia and the tussle, and many of, I was familiar that many of my friends, male friends, were hanging out with their girlfriends, but they also had interest in nice-looking boys, right? So that makes this story a little more complex and, to put it very bluntly, credible. So how do you respond to some of, these are the things. That's it. But it was a very sweet description, a nice narrative.
Thank you for that. And well, if I could start with what my response would be to traditional anthropological work, I would say. If I have any criticism, I don't know if I'm big enough to criticize them, but if I could criticize them, I would say the problem with their accounts is the fact that they have this idea of what romantic relationships are, and then they go and try and look for it. And they say, okay, it's not there, so there's no relationship. Whereas what I was trying to do was to see, okay, you say that there's romantic love there, so tell me what it is, and try and understand their account. So I'm saying that we should try and, like everything else, the notion of romantic love has different meanings in different contexts, and they might be different. So rather than go with a kind of preconceived idea, like people like Richard, Women's Richard, they try and go into what you can find and kind of interpret that. That would be my answer to that. And as the thing about trust, when I was writing about it, like I said, obviously I didn't go into details here, but there are layers of trust, and there were different ways of building trust as well. And we were talking about, if I would talk about like one thing I could think of the top of my head is that being open. So there were obviously levels of being open. You might be open about certain aspects about your life, but might think certain other aspects are not relevant, or just they will have their reasons. So it's not just kind of this kind of blanket application of trust. It was a very kind of negotiated process. You have to get involved, and it's like kind of basically like playing by the ear. But you at the outset you kind of agree that you have to have trust, and that you should be able to trust with each other, trust each other to a certain extent if you're doing it. And when I wrote that, I kind of wrote it as an antithesis to Uddin's trust as well. So that was the way trust was negotiated was very personal and to a larger extent emotionless. And for heteronormativity and stuff, I didn't touch on homosexual relationships. I didn't touch on anything else. So I don't think I'm in a position to. All I could tell you is that in our conversations, nothing came up, but that could very well be because I didn't ask, and maybe I was insensitive enough to pick up this stuff. So if you're not, I guess I kind of I play the same role of thinking that heterosexual relationships are a bit more this thing.
I'm not familiar with this literature, like most of us. Maybe familiar with certain kind of experiences, but certain relationships. So last time I read something similar to yours was it's Margaret Carrick's as we call it, but Rules of Love in a Time of something like that. But reading that and also listening to you, and notwithstanding that I don't know the larger body of your work, one thing that, a couple of things that came to my mind. One is that I wonder whether it's useful or whether you do make a distinction between certain kinds of emotions that might come up in an exploration like that. For example, is there a difference between romantic love, desire, and lust? And to me, all these three things also require certain kinds of investment. It is not only this ideal love that you need to invest time and gifts and so on. Lust involves that too.
Yeah, very
right?
costly.
It's very costly. Yeah. So now, of course, if you ask in an interview, I don't know what format it took, but most people will probably hide or camouflage, the kinds of emotions that have a more negative tendency towards it in this idea of love, right? So now, is it useful to make that kind of distinction? Does it make a difference in terms of? This is the question that was coming into my mind. Because it is also, to me at least, it is not very, if you are looking at, let's say, letters, love letters, I guess you might have looked at your students, but I'm not sure. Some people, I mean, there are some studies that have looked at letters written by others. Now, it's never really clear to me whether those are reflections of love or whether they are reflections of other kinds of feelings which might be construed as such. Right? And so this confusion was in my mind. How do you make a distinction or is it useful? Second, I must say I was confused from the beginning to the end in your narrative, even though it reads very well. And that is because we are used to a different kind of ethnographic experience. So I was confused, because this whole thing was in the first person. And I thought you were talking, and then I realized it wasn't. And then, now towards the end, I realized that it was kind of you, it was not you, it was this main protagonist, and there are other voices coming through her voice as well. So now I'm confused, because even though I kind of like the feel of it, but at the same time, then I wonder what is the distinction between this kind of ethnography and a work of fiction?
Well, I guess we all agree that when you think of fiction, you know that it's nothing's fiction. Why I started this, that I've been thinking about it. When I put it into a letter form, I wondered why I wanted to do that. I felt that it was it is written as a letter. That's why it was called a letter on love. And why I thought of, so I was reading a book about love letters in Nepalese people, and looking at that, I thought it was a very nice way of putting text and context together to tell a story. And I thought, like, privilege. I mean, I guess I wouldn't have a strong enough argument to say that this is not fiction. I mean, if you were to say that fiction is work that's coming from analysis and interpretation of real life, then this is fiction. But that's what it is. It's putting together things I've read, I found, and or thought about together to say, this is what I think the story is. And as for the first question, was that enough?
No, for the beginning, yeah, you can answer.
And about those different emotions, kind of emotional registers. That's a very interesting point. They did talk about lust, mostly in terms of attraction. But the biggest distinction was if you follow attraction down that line, then you go fulfill desires, and that's the end of it. And that's not the thing that you should do. What you should do is you have attraction, you have lust, you pull towards it, and this is the thing that you should do. Good commitment, you understand each other, and you make it from something more than just a romantic relationship. There was that kind of understanding of different registers of emotion, but they make a distinction as we kind of things department.
Are they similar speakers?
Yeah.
So how would they talk about love? Now you one of the things I remember from my school days was it was very difficult to talk about love because single language doesn't really encourage it. Yes, there are linguistic problems. You can't use the Sanskrit grammar because it's too formal, and you can't use the Sinhala agare because it's not really used. So how did they talk about it?
Well, when they talk about agare,
They actually use that.
yeah, but like I said, often like when they talk about intimacy and stuff, because I never heard a single word for kiss.
So how do they
Kiss? Yeah.
And intimacy, how do they?
Yeah.
So they use the English word.
Yeah.
They say kadagana in Singapore.
And they also we say.
Kurutal
Yes,
in
yes,
Singapore. But everything else is Singapore.
The vernacular is chumma.
Okay.
Yeah, chumma. The local.
Yeah, I can figure it out. The sound helps.
Okay, guys, now we can.
The best part is, however, that in spite of all the questions we may have, but the best part is that these issues have to emerge as a central area of investigation. Because for a very long time, there was this, not Milton singer, some singer who wrote on history of love, a very random kind of classical emotions and all. But in anthropology, very focused work, like Margaret Mead worked on at a long back. But in the very contemporary situation, these are the areas not touched too much for various kind of methodological reasons, that how to access it, how to find reliable material.
There is a type 2 analysis.
Well, there are a few anthropological works. Pervez Modi wrote a book.
Modi. On state.
Yes, state analysis, and then there's another one called Heart and Other Countries. Laura that's about Brazilians, and then Laura Ellen's love letters, I think that was called, about Nepalese people who exchange letters.
Nepalese.
Yeah.
I think so.
It's
From Laura?
Laura Ahamad.
Oh, you are familiar?
If each comes halfway.
Sorry?
If each comes halfway.
That's the title of the book?
I don't think that's
I don't know that. I read only I think it's called Love Letters. I didn't know about the other one. I think she's done a recent book.
Al-Pasha also was. Al-Pasha is a written article of a Greek workers in Jharkhand.
Who?
Al-Pasha.
Al-Pasha.
Yeah.
Al-Pasha.
No, sorry. That one was of Catherine March. Sorry.
Okay.
Manoj, you want to say something on that? From the Nepalese experience?
I thought it would be very close to everybody's
Shy to talk about this.
that fear of disclosing last is what
But I can make two suggestions, which has nothing much to do with what you said today. But one is that I find this stuff very interesting, and partly because it's ethnographically interesting, because it's not really very familiar. So I think you should seriously consider writing something based on your work to observe. Partly because you should be introduced to this part of the world. You know, what can you do in England? You will find a job, but it's intellectually not a very interesting place.
Don't say that.
Come on, I'm more
Oh,
than
she shifted to Ireland.
But anyway, no, seriously, because this Margaret Farid, who was one of the first to work on this thing, did her work in South India, in Madras, and now he's based on Sri Lanka. It might generate more interest.
Yes.
Partly because the theme you are dealing with is still taboo in public discussion.
Yes.
So it might be interesting. Second, you should help me to formulate a course on maybe for our master's course on this thing.
That's South Asia.
Yeah.
Well, there's a book called Love in South Asia, but that talks about history stuff and mostly Indian love in literature, and it's mostly history.
That is Francis Orsini.
Orsini.
That is in cinema.
Yeah.
Or some of the Indian
Or
cinema.
literature.
Yeah, I didn't like that book. I mean, yeah, sounds promising title, but only that much.
No, we need to. This is the only way this literature will be explored.
Yeah. This is a very good area to work.
So take a couple of months maybe.
I mean, I want to ask you, well, anybody else if you like, about like does it work as a letter? It is an experimental thing. I wanted to see if we put it like are we open to write in different ways? Does letters work?
If you write to the contributions to Indian sociology, that article it will be rejected.
I can't reject once.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We are far more open because it is open for experimental writing. That's why I told you it's a reason for what I said. But even if you write to sociological bulletin, then it will be rejected saying it's not sociology.
Yeah.
Right?
I wrote introduction to what was it?
Indian anthropology?
No, it's
You
I
write
think it's a
to
cultural anthropology.
oh, that is a very conventional American.
It's American.
No, see, this is the problem with what you call experimental writing. Until and unless they become conventional writing, they will be taboo from formal domains of discourse.
But do you think by likening it to fiction, right? Am I taking away from the research and what I'm trying to say?
No, I don't know. When you listen to it, it seems to be the case. But writing is a different method, including if it's the same text. But if I were you, I will bring the end to the beginning.
The
Postscripts will be the kind of preface kind of thing. If you are looking at conventional writing, then it contextualizes what you are doing.
Yeah.
But then I'm going to conventional.
No, you are not. You are still offering a writer. You are still offering a writer. But who knows? I mean, this is what I'm talking in terms of accessing conventional domains of knowledge. If you something like what we have designed, it's very open to this kind of thing. Anyway, if it is.
But Polish sociologists, I think we published something on that Polish sociologists that might goes to a second model. Then it's all those tendencies.
That is 1980.
1980. This is wonderful. And these kind of separation of that is what well in the 80s and 90s. Late 80s and 90s.
No. Early 1980s.
Early 90s.
Yeah.
Polish sociology. Yeah, Polish classes.
Hitendra is very romantic. He has got confident. Put it on.
Thank you, Dev sir, to encourage me to say something. Actually, when I was in Bangladesh at the class of 8, I read and heard the word of Mahatma Gandhi. He told that where there is a life, there is a love. And this quotation is fascinated me. I really believe and immerse on this title or quotation. I want to I agree on this topics quotation, and I want to listen something from our speaker about this.
About? Very famous. You can correct a few things you have.
I'll be loud.
Loud.
My question might be stupid, ma'am, but when we take up a research topic, there is certain motivation behind other certain kind of research. So, what was your motivation? Why did you pursue a research in such a topic?
Well, it was very, very personal. I started a PhD on a different topic. I was going to study cultural politics in Sri Lanka. 4 months into it, I had lost all motivation and needed something that would keep my interest going. And what tempted me was that we do spend a lot of time talking about romantic relationships, but we don't do it in a way that we can. We make meaning for ourselves, but we don't do anything beyond that. And I thought it would be nice to see if I could do something beyond it. See where relationships bigger and larger lives.
So,
It was very sweet to listen to you. One question that came in my mind is, you said that real love is only when it ends up in marriage. So is it only in love marriages that we can find real love, not in arranged marriages? And if we go for love marriage, should we not take into consideration what our family wants, what my parents want, and what about my parents' love towards me? What should I only take into account my individual life and my boyfriend's choice?
That was the really, really interesting thing about these accounts as well. When they talk about people who are compatible, they weren't talking about people who were just compatible. They took the whole package, the whole package. Some people I spoke with told me that they sent people back. See, the guy they do this background check. You see if the people are compatible by talking about everything. You can take into everything, which included what they've been up to in their villages. And it was very much a kind of, that was what was interesting about it. It was very much kind of, it was, though they were looking for somebody for themselves, it was also about what goes with my background, like who would my parents accept. And there were people who were together in incompatible relationships. They said that they've got their parental approval, so they thought that they were working on it. Then it was never a matter of, that was the other thing about tradition and convention, it was never about turning their back on and saying, I'm going to do whatever I want to do. So on the question of arranged marriages, what I found was that has changed as well. It wasn't, I mean, like people who talk, there were people who wanted their parents to find people for themselves, and they said that they liked it because it wasn't just about introducing you to someone and asking you to get married. They said you get to know each other, and you kind of, by getting to know each other like that, you kind of build love. And it's kind of, in arranged marriages, the only difference, the way they put it, was that the person's got introduced through their parents rather than you find someone. So the love was very much a good thing in arranged setup.
Hello. Yes, ma'am. For me, this is a very challenging topic because it's not a conventional. Basically, sociology we talk about, rural sociology, something like this, and we go on conventional thing. But the area it's like unexplored. I have come into one article that is by Al-Pasha regarding the love among workers in Jharkhand, in brick workers especially. So my question is basically methodological, and when you have asked this question to your respondents in, I mean this is how they have responded. I mean, this is very hard because I mean, people say something, they hide something. So what about the observational part? I mean, have you included that one, or it's like basically what they said and you have interpreted? Basically, I want to know.
So what I did, in terms of observation, I think that that acquires a different meaning in this kind of visit. I can go and watch people, whatever people do in their personal life. So what I did was I interviewed people who kind of know each other, and I went and spent quite a bit of time in the university. And just as I did home interviews, where they talked about love, both through their experiences and then ideologically. I also saw what was happening around and how they broke up or got together for different reasons. And that was what I kind of used as observation rather than kind of watching people.
And I'm talking about faith also. When we have asked this your respondents, I mean, yeah, definitely we must have a faith on our respondents. But when you're talking something like this, making love, I mean, when two people are talking, I can understand and they will open up and they will speak about it. But when the third person, I mean, they may not share their true feelings. They may say something which is, which is correct, socially correct.
I never do. Like, it was always one-to-one interviews.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Even then, I know that there were things that they get from me, and which they not either they themselves would tell me it or from the
So how many cases so far?
I did about 50 interviews, but I used about 30 in my PhD. I'm actually passionate.
Hello ma'am. Actually I would like to know, I believe that love is a vague concept. So how do you actually differentiate between what is love and what is not love? Vague concept.
I wasn't trying to define it. That's why I told about Richard Hicks's approach as well. I thought if they think that they are
as in, how do you take trust as a building force? That okay, if there is trust, there has to be a relationship, otherwise not.
What I've done here was that I've condensed the key things that they kept talking about, and I thought that trust in itself is not enough. That's what they say, and trust doesn't come. It's not that you start with trust. But the three key what I did was I kind of condensed what we talked about in terms of expectations and what they want from relationships, and kind of came to the conclusion that these three things are the biggest things that we should talk about in terms of relationships.
Last question.
I was interested in the way this narrative was unfolding, and particularly interested in the way it is written. I don't know if I got that feel by the way you were reading it, or is that written in the way you read it. That there is this self-delusional and questioning things about love. It gives me a sense that one is questioning what it is and how it is, why one does what he does. So was that tone meant to be the way you read it, or I mean, why is it this reading a strong one? I mean, it gives a very weak feel. I don't know if it was read in that way. It seems to be very delusional and very doubtful. It isn't strong enough to convince people that it is the way it is, and it is how you define it.
Can you someone else about in which sense you feel that
I don't know, that is what I said. While she was reading it, I felt that this narrative it seems very weak.
In which sense?
In the sense that it does not convince you. The person who is himself narrating it doubtful about the fact that what love really is. It seems like that. I'm not really sure. But I just wanted to ask, was this narrative meant to be giving a feel of such vagueness that you don't yourself understand it? You know?
It is supposed to be a reflective account. I don't know if that's what you were trying to get at, but it's a good point about putting it across as a reflective account is that you know, then you can't say that this is it and this is not what it is. I'm just trying to kind of say, okay, this is what I've seen and this is what I've made sense of and this is what I think. And it's up to you. I mean, I'm not saying that, you know what I'm saying, it's not to convince you that love is this. It's to tell you that this is one way of thinking.
Hello, ma'am. I've been always surprised by this idea of this modern day notion of love, the love in contemporary times. See, I may love somebody today, I may have blind trust on that person, and tomorrow, depending on circumstances or whatever, I may end up loving somebody else. So, this entire notion of true love, where does it stand in contemporary times?
That's why I said I was working on an antithesis to Anthony Giddens, because I feel that it's his thing about modern love, that we think that there's this true love, so we keep jumping from one relationship to the other. We always think that there's something better. But when I look at my material, what I realized was life isn't unfold like that. We don't jump from relationship to the other. True, we might have 10 relationships, but we're not driven by this constant search for the true love or the real love. What we try to do is we try to make each relation, this is a failed relationship. And what she did there was she tried to turn it into the one that lasts and it didn't work out. But
it is our own interpretation of what we think is the true love.
Yes, yeah, rather than, and I don't think it happened. I haven't lived long enough or done research long enough to say it's not the thing, but I don't think what Giddens says happens. I don't think we're driven by a need to kind of give up and.
I like the Giddens' famous comments about divorce and happiness. The more you have divorce in the society, the more you have happiness. There's no point to hang around if you are not happy. So the divorce is a kind of rational choice. So that is also about this trust, not to distrust the other one. So it's more pure. So I don't find it difficult to accept Giddens in that sense. Okay, anyway, so we close this. So please give a big. As Shashank said, if you can develop a course, so then we would put out something for anthropology of love in South Asia.
That's nice.